And greetings from warm and sunny Zanzibar in beautiful Tanzania. Welcome to our Africa Special show, where we'll be bringing you news and deeper dives into the work we're doing here on this incredible continent.
Hello indeed, and thank you, John. And in place of this month's Cardano 360, we're delighted to be bringing you a unique and much awaited Africa special. The show itself has been weeks in the making, drawing upon partners and collaborators from across the continent, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Nigeria, and so on. But in fact, the news we're going to share with you today has been the result of many years of working on the continent itself, a slow and steady process of building capability, connections, and above all, trust. As much as we're looking forward to the future, the focus for this show is on the here and now. What's happening, what's being built, what's being delivered. So coming up in today's show, we'll be sharing more information on our new partnership with the government of Ethiopia, announced this week, in what we believe is the biggest public blockchain deal ever. We'll have an exclusive interview with a government minister driving blockchain adoption and innovation in the country, and hear more about the solution that we're deploying. We'll also have another exciting announcement today about a second major partnership in Africa, this time centred in Tanzania, to roll out mobile internet connectivity, digital identity and financial empowerment to rural communities across Africa. In the show, we'll meet some members of our African community and update you on a partnership helping us build out centres for innovation and entrepreneurship across Africa. The Cardano Foundation will also announce a brand new collab with Coty and one of the world's leading charities. And we'll be joined by Emergo to give their perspective on the commercial opportunities for a vibrant, youthful economy. Last but not least, we'll close with a fascinating panel session with Charles, Jerry, our Chief Commercial Officer, Danelle Patel and John O'Connor on what the tech future might hold for Africa, moderated by veteran Financial Times Africa journalist David Pilling. But before we head back over to Africa, let's begin in Colorado.
Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson from warm, sunny Colorado. Thank you all for coming to the Africa Special. This is one of my favorite events, and I think it's perhaps one of the greatest moments in my career as the CEO of Input Output. I started my company in February of 2015 with a dream of delivering economic identity to those who don't have it. The reality is the world lives still in two different configurations, one for the developed and one for the developing. In the developed world, there are many things we take for granted. The fact that it's easy for us to have an identity, passports, driver's licenses. It's easy for us to travel. It's easy for us to prove our creditworthiness and get credentials. It's easy for us to borrow money, get insurance, and to process payments. For example, if someone does a service for you, you can Venmo them something. You can send them a PayPal transaction. We take this for granted, and for the most part, it's part of our daily lives, just like breathing or drinking water. But when you live in the developing world, it's a very different prospect. It's very difficult to globalize. It's difficult to prove claims, whether you're producing something with fair trade or in a sustainable way. It's difficult for people to receive money and send money. These remittance transactions on average carry an 8 to 15% fee. When a person wants to borrow money, if it's even possible, these microfinance transactions can have interest rates as high as 85%, according to the World Bank. And the reason this exists is not because of avarice or because of racism or some unpronounced evil in the global order. Rather, it's because of systems. Some countries enjoy systems that are structurally superior to other systems. And the problem is that the legacy systems that we have are fundamentally incompatible with total globalization without admitting total centralization behind one standard, such as the American way or the Chinese way. The world is beyond that. This is no longer the 20th century. This is the 21st century. A century with the iPhone, a century with the internet, a century where information moves instantaneously. And as a consequence, we have a better way of governing the world order. We no longer need central entities. We no longer need central governments. Just like the internet, the things that can process our payments, our contractual relationships, hoist up our identity, our property, and permit the gears of commerce to work can be done through the very same technology that has enabled innovations like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. I started my company in 2015 with a first principles approach. We started with science. We built labs all throughout the world, hiring dozens of PhDs, and we wrote over 100 papers, many of which have been processed through the wonderful crucible of peer review. And citation after citation later, conference after conference later, journal after journal later, we've built out a corpus of scientific knowledge that has allowed us to understand how to build systems that can scale not just to millions, but inevitably to billions of users, and preserve a fundamental truth that we are all equal, and we all deserve access to the same marketplaces. Whether you're Bill Gates or the shepherd from Senegal, you should receive equal treatment and consideration and be given equal access to markets, and allow merit to be the differentiator, not geography or genetics. As a consequence of these years of effort and time that we've put in, we have been able to build great protocols like Cardano. And this special is not about aspirations. It's not about promises. This special is about delivery. For the past 4 years, our people have lived in Ethiopia and have traveled throughout the entire continent of Africa. Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, Nigeria, Kenya, all around, South Africa. No matter where the winds would take them, the promises and commitments and dreams were the same. We had the desire to spread our vision of how we can change the way the world works, from the top down to the bottom up, pushing power to the edges and allowing people to be their own bank, allowing people to have their own identity. And today, this special is showing all of you the fruits of our labors over the past 4 years. The flagship of which is a deal that we have closed with the Ministry of Education containing 5 million students using a technology called PRISM integrated in the Cardano blockchain. Every one of these students will have a digital ID called a DID, and that DID carries with it metadata that will travel with them throughout their entire academic life, and like those who left Facebook's clutches of the university into the real world, will actually follow them into the economic world. So as they graduate, as they go into the economy, eventually this infrastructure can be used for property, for payments, for voting, and all other manners of their economic life. And what's beautiful about this evergreen deal is it's extensible. Our priorities and goals are directly aligned with the vision and priorities and goals of the Ethiopian government. In a recently published doctrine of Ethiopia 2025, there was a bold vision to digitize the country on 4 pillars, the first of which was a national ID system. It is our belief that the work we have done here with PRISM and Cardano for these 5 million students will inevitably grow to be an inspiration and perhaps the system for 107 million Ethiopians, allowing them for the first time to globalize on equal terms with the United States, the European Union, China, and other modern developed economies. In addition to this, this system goes far beyond just identity. Our belief is that it can be used to help people procure jobs, to help people prove their skills, because the system can verify credentials, the system can verify certificates, the system can be used for a litany of activities which are required for people to understand who are credible actors to deal with and who have earned the right to have a job. Now, that's just Ethiopia. This special also includes our partners in Tanzania, World Mobile, and partners throughout the continent. And each and every one of them have hopes and dreams about how to apply this technology. The magic of Cardano is, like Bitcoin before it, it's permissionless. It does not require someone to register or license something. It does not require someone to ask to use it. Rather, it's an open platform. And while these deals were spearheaded by Input Output Global and our partners, they serve as an inspiration for countless thousands of entrepreneurs throughout the continent to realize their dreams, their businesses, whether it be a decentralized Uber, whether it be securitizing a small company, whether it be a completely new way of representing resources in trade and commerce. It's an open piece of infrastructure accessible to all, for all, throughout the continent to be able to realize their dreams. Our industry's brought a lot of really cool innovations. NFTs, DeFi, STOs, ICOs, and all of these things, for the most part, have been based upon promises of a new world. I believe over the next 5 years, as this technology rolls across all of Africa and many other places in the world, such as Southeast Asia, Central Asia, Eastern Europe, that these promises can be transformed into completely new business models. All of these things are possible with the technology we've constructed, built with formal methods and advanced languages like Haskell for everyone, and validated by peer review. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for listening. And I love this celebration of what has been done, and I'm looking to the future. I hope to make this an annual event. Cheers.
Hopefully now you've started to build a better understanding of IO's vision and commitment to the region. Education and the nation's development go hand in hand. Education brings benefits like improving the economic and financial lifestyle of its citizens and determining the prospects of future generations. That's why this next partnership has been such a priority for our team here. So, Minister, how did this initiative come about?
For the last 5 years or so, I was serving as a Minister of Science and Technology, then as a Minister of Innovation and Technology before coming to the Minister of Education. So when I was a Minister of Science and Technology, we had this engagement with IOHK, and so it was my intention back then to bring new technologies, and of course it's also my responsibility to bring in new technologies, and one of the new technologies that I wanted to see in Ethiopia was a blockchain technology. With IOHK, we managed to conduct some trainings for girls, so that's how the whole idea came. So when I came to the Minister of Education, then I wanted to make use of the potential of blockchain technology within the education sector. So in Ethiopia and in Africa, in many countries, many people say that there is an issue of quality of education. We have to think of how quality can be improved, and one of the easiest way and one of the doable way of improving quality is basically technology. So as soon as I landed here in the Ministry of Education, I came up with a new idea called D-Test, Digital Technology for Education Sector Transformation. And this initiative is all about bringing technology to improve the quality of education. And when we say technology, whatever latest technology we have. So it's very practical to think of blockchain technology to improve quality of education here in Ethiopia and also in many developing countries as well. I came to know that IOHK opened the African office here in Ethiopia, here in Addis. And so when I see IOHK is also with Charles Atkinson, the founder of ADA, the Cardano cryptocurrency. So Cardano is one of the top 4 or 5 cryptocurrencies available in the world. So that means that doing blockchain with IOHK is like a dream coming true for me. I formally, as a Minister of Science and Technology, I formally requested IOHK and also Charles Atkinson to start doing something, if I'm not mistaken, 10 weeks training. And the first batch, I personally, as a Minister of Science and Technology, decided to make it the first batch all girls trainee, and 4 of those girls came from Uganda. So that is how we came across IOHK. When we go back to the history of how IOHK came about and the whole philosophy behind the formation of Cardano and the whole blockchain science, blockchain technology, in IOHK we see huge collaboration with universities and huge investment on research on blockchain technology by IOHK. So it means that it has an academic foundation, it has an academic partnership. So you cannot really get the level of understanding of somebody by simply providing a test twice a year or once in a year. One thing we decided is to have a digital ID for our students, especially focusing into the secondary school. So we started providing digital ID for all of our 12th grade students. But our plan in this blockchain technology is to provide a digital ID for close to 5 million students in the secondary school. So the issue is that once these students have digital ID, so we can uniquely identify those students. So once we are able to uniquely identify, then we have to have a system by which every performance of that students be captured online, real, live, so that we know how good that student is in terms of mathematics, in terms of physics and so on. We need to capture the whole performance, engagement of that students with his subjects, with his teachers, with his peers and so on and so on. So this can be done only with blockchain. Nothing, I don't think other technologies are able to really perform that level of analytics, that level of accuracy and that level of privacy as well, and that level of security as well. So for that reason, blockchain is only a technology I imagine would address those concerns I have. And so the volume is that the first deployment is around 5 million. That is the scale of the project, but that's the first phase of deployment. But through time, maybe over the coming 5 years or so, we also want to extend or scale up into the mid-secondary school, grade 7 and grade 8, and to the lower primary schools as well. But within the coming 1 year, 2 years time, especially the first 1 year time, our plan is to deploy blockchain performance analytics, blockchain-based monitoring of intellect, knowledge. And I think blockchain deployment in education sector, this makes the biggest I ever come across, and this makes Ethiopia the biggest user of blockchain technology in the education sector. Here now in Ethiopia, we have more than 27 million students, and as I said, we have close to 5 million secondary school students and 700,000 teachers. With this technology, I would know all of my students, their strengths, their weakness, all of my teachers, their weakness, their strengths. Whether we like it or not, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution is digitalization. So digitalization means if you are not part of the digitalization, then you are left aside. You will not catch up with the progress of technology. So this is not only in the education sector, in every sector. So digitalization is a foundation of where we are now as fourth industrial revolution. So there is no way we would be able to do things, or we would be successful without making life digitalized. So we can see blockchain technology is engulfing whatever digital technology we are having. Financial technology is becoming very dominant user for blockchain technology, and now education sector coming in, health sector coming in, transportation sector coming in. So I don't see in the near future, I don't see any competing technology other than blockchain technology. That's why I decided to bring blockchain technology into the education sector. If blockchain technology is successful in financial sector, then surely it will be successful in all sectors for me.
So some 5 million students onboarded onto the Cardano blockchain, and this is just the beginning in a nation committed to using blockchain to transform and digitalize its economy, from education to agriculture, manufacturing and more. Now at the heart of this is Atala Prism, a decentralized identity solution developed by Input-Output for Cardano. Let's hear more about the Atala vision from one of its key architects, Chief Product Officer Danel Patel, and more details on the integration underway in Ethiopia.
I'm Dino Patel. I'm the Chief Product Officer at IOG. I'm originally from Zambia. I studied in South Africa, and I'm really blessed to be working with a talented group of engineers and academics to build solutions that will work for my home country and also the rest of Africa. So in developed markets, we really take identity for granted, but identity is really core to accessing a host of services. So whether you want to apply for a loan or apply for insurance, you need to have your identity. Cardano is an open platform that seeks to provide economic identity for the billions of people who lack it by enabling decentralized applications for identity, value, and governance. Atala Prism is a decentralized identity solution that's really bringing the users that will consume those services built on Cardano. So it's really that simple. Atala Prism is an open identity system that is key for financial inclusion. So in the case of Ethiopia, it's all starting with 5 million people. IOG is very excited to be working with the Ethiopian Ministry of Education to create a next generation blockchain-based identity solution that can track grades and educational attainment of students throughout their educational life from kindergarten to 12th grade. There will be a number of applications built, including a web-based application that will allow the MOE and educational institutions to manage students throughout their educational life. Schools can easily view student details and see all credentials that have been issued to them or received from them. The MOE and all educational entities will be able to easily create and issue credentials to any group of students. Schools will also be able to easily monitor attendance. A learning management system component will also enable the creation of learning and development programs. Every student will be issued with a tablet with the MOE application installed. On registering in the application, a unique digital identity will be created, and this will be anchored in the Cardano blockchain. Students will be able to connect to their school and receive all their educational credentials. These will be securely stored and they can easily be shared with universities and potential employers. The app will also have functionality to allow students to view what classes they're enrolled in, their attendance records, and their progress throughout the school year. So the technology we've developed to deliver this is groundbreaking, and as a consumer application, we've designed this to be as user-friendly as possible and made it mobile-focused. It's going to enable really a customer-centric identity system that's more secure, more transparent, and also more auditable. This is part of the Ethiopia strategy to leverage new technology and realize its potential in the digital space. So we're building the solution for Ethiopia right now. We expect to see that in market in 6 to 9 months from now. The next phase will focus on expand national ID programs to allow financial institutions to also record financial transactions. This is just the start. Local banks and micro-lending institutions will be able to verify the citizens and provide financial services. I was inspired to join IOG really because of Charles's vision for financial inclusion. Over 1 billion people on this planet do not have access to financial services, and over half of those are from Africa. In developing countries, people are unable to really access financial services for 2 reasons. Firstly, they don't have an identity that's required to be able to go and open a bank account. Secondly, they're not able to use their informal credit history that they might have got from getting a loan from your local shopkeeper or the micro-lending institution close to where you live, or the local farming cooperative. They're not able to take this credit history that you've got there and apply it to a bank. So solving these 2 systemic issues has the opportunity to unlock billions of dollars worth of capital. And it's important to underscore this is not charity. Unbanked users are not riskier than banked users. So there's a real opportunity there for us to go after. The system is quite open, so it can also provide and capture additional data. For example, it can capture information about loan repayments, and it can also capture personal information such as land registration data, your health data, among other things. So Atala covers a whole range of Layer 2 solutions, from credentialing, track and trace solutions, product authentication. We've been developing Atala for over 2 years now, and very early on we recognized that identity was key to unlocking a whole range of services. Smart contracts will enable further opportunities. They'll enable basically the creation of decentralized insurance and lending providers that are able to compete at lower price points and also provide services that are more equitable for everyone. We're also working on Hydra, which is our scalability solution, and this will enable micropayment use cases. We're very excited about our work in Ethiopia, issuing the first government-endorsed digital ID to all students. This is an important first step towards our goal of enabling financial inclusion across the continent.
So let's look a little closer at the technology that makes all of this possible. The DID, the digital identifier, which lives on the Cardano blockchain. Technical architect Alexei has created a step-by-step walkthrough, so if you're a developer and want the full 13-minute version, check out the Africa Special playlist on YouTube to do the full deep dive. But for now, let's just take a quick peek at the code in action.
Hi everyone, this is Alexis, Atala Prism Technical Architect at IOHK.
What you're looking into right now is the official documentation website that we will eventually release, and this talks about the SDK that was built using Kotlin multi-platform, which targets Swift, Java and JavaScript, so that you can do any integration in any of those languages. It includes some tutorials and references, like the usage tutorial and integration tutorial. Depending on what you need, we have it covered here. Let's go to the code example that I had prepared for this presentation. We are targeting to run a very simple use case, which is an issuer that is willing to issue a credential for what it requires to generate a DID and publish it to Cardano. This DID is going to be used for the credential that the issuer is going to issue. Then the credential will be issued and published to the Cardano network. And at last, there is a verifier involved who is willing to verify the credential that the holder has, which is done by resolving some data from the Cardano network. Overall, it's pretty simple, and it's explaining in the SDK documentation. You can see the first step that was generating the DID for the issuer and getting it posted in the Cardano network. At first we generate a key, then we create an operation, and then we use the node in order to send the operation to the Cardano testnet.
I hope you have enjoyed this sneak peek into our project. We will be sharing our documentation and more details in the coming months. Thank you.
So, any developers out there, please check that out later, and remember that the platform is open source, so stand by for an open repo and full documentation in due course. And let's get building. So, before moving on from Atala Prism and digital identities, let's just close this section with a nice, concise, simple explainer, recapping what digital identity is and why it matters. And when you're looking for a nice explainer video, there's only one man to go to.
Identity is part of our everyday lives. We use our identity multiple times every day without really thinking about it. When we open a mobile money account, apply for a new loan, pay tuition fees, make a medical appointment, get access to our workplace, or even access to government services. Every time we do any of these activities or a million others, we're using our identity. Mobile technology has transformed our world and continues to. From high-end smartphones in developed economies through to simpler devices in developing ones, mobiles have become a part of our everyday life. And because of the rapid evolution in digital infrastructure and connectivity, we are now on the verge of transitioning from a pre-internet way of doing things into a new era of managing our identities online, and that brings up the question, what does transitioning to a digital world look like? In the modern world, we carry our identity everywhere we go, in the form of ID cards, passports, train or bus passes, medical cards, driver's licenses, and the list goes on. Our wallets are stuffed with physical representations of who we are. These forms of identification work because society traditionally recognizes and accepts them as a valid proof of someone's identity. And what we aim to do is give everybody the ability to use digital credentials much in the same way that you use physical credentials today. We are building a way to enable digital trust. And this is where Atala Prism comes in. Much like how we store our credit and ID cards in our wallets, Atala Prism is like a mobile wallet for all your important documents, like government ID, diplomas, health insurance, vouchers, and more that will allow you to own, control, and share these verified credentials independently to any organization, agency, or institution at any time. Just like the framework that currently exists to validate physical credentials, digital identities need a set of standards to validate the authenticity of a digital identifier. When it comes to your digital identity, the decentralized identifier and the verified credentials standards allow you to easily prove who you are in a common format that is widely accepted and recognized, all while keeping your actual identity and personal information safe and secure, and cutting out any middleman. And you might be familiar with the ability to log into third-party services or apps using your Google or Facebook account. And Atala Prism will allow you to do something very similar, but instead of using an account owned by somebody else, you have total control and ownership over what information is shared. And even better, all of your digital identities are stored on your smartphone, which offers greater security and portability. And now let's take a look at how this all works. Meet Joe. He's just an average guy, and he's going to help you understand how the digital credentials process works. Joe downloads the Atala Prism app and registers his account. A unique private DID is created, and this serves as a unique digital ID for interactions with the government services he'll be accessing. The government verifies Joe's ID and scans and records his biometric data to create a unique digital ID. Joe is then issued a digital ID, which is cryptographically signed with the government's DID. Joe's unique identifier is also included in his credentials. The digital ID is stored on Joe's phone and securely backed up in a personal data store. Whenever Joe needs to access any digital service such as social programs, medical or academic records, voting, banking, and even insurance, the service provider can independently and confidently verify his identity without having to ask the issuer, in this case, the government. Websites, apps, or possible employers can all check that Joe's credentials are valid and provide the requested service. So what makes a decentralized identity secure and trustworthy? In one word, cryptography. Joe's credentials are linked to a unique ID that is signed with a cryptographic key. When Joe needs to share his credentials, he creates a secure, private, and trusted connection with the other party. This channel is secured using the credentials associated with each party's DID. Joe can also request the deletion of a shared credential or revoke access to any third party that currently has access to his personal data store at any time. Joe is now in full control of his digital identity. No more lengthy forms. Joe can now sign up for insurance or a host of other digital services with just a single click that uniquely only his new digital ID can provide. And that's why Atala is one of the keys to economic identity across the whole of Africa.
An autonomous, decentralized network, operating at low cost, connecting and empowering communities, financed by stake pools. You think I'm talking about Cardano, right? No, I'm talking about mobile. Now, this film coming up is a little bit special, and we're very excited about this project, a brand new partnership which we're announcing today on our Africa special. Before you can bank the unbanked, you need to connect the unconnected. And with a unique digital identity, you can open up economic opportunities never before possible. Forget DeFi, and welcome to RealFi.
Today, we're showcasing another important partnership. World Mobile's pioneering mobile network is bringing remote African regions online for the first time in an affordable, sustainable, and profitable way. Last week, I spent a few days in Zanzibar and Tanzania with the team from World Mobile to find out more.
Half the world can't speak to the other half. Half the world can't communicate. This is unacceptable.
Our vision was to connect as many people as possible. We're saying we're going to go after the unconnected, and it is actually feasible.
You're going to see the potential of Africa unlocked with the average age of 19.7 years old. This is going to change the face of the planet as we know today. It's beyond the butterfly effect. This is the effect of connection, the effect of connectivity.
Connectivity is the primary asset. This is something that can be realized and in a very short period of time.
A network built by the people, for the people. If you're not connected, you're just a number.
Everybody should have access to that. You know, it's for everybody. It is a fundamental human right, the right to access.
Same basic elements that used to be food, water and air, and now power, connectivity and identity.
Your right to live your life the best way you can. COVID-19 literally proved to the world that having access to the internet can keep the world going on and on and on. Now, why did some people in this world have access to keep their lives going and others were just confined to not having access to that? And that's just not fair.
Legacy infrastructure has left half the world offline. There's 1,000 mobile network operators serving 5.5 billion people. There's 0 mobile network operators serving the other half of the world. In the quest for connectivity, the quest for a faster internet connection, we've sold our rights. This is going to be rebooted in Africa. This is a network that gives people self-data governance, gives people economic freedom of choice, and ultimately at least giving people back their dignity, something that we don't have anymore.
We have 3 bars instead of 1. People from other villages are visiting us.
It's your connection that's bad.
I'm just on my way to Bole Airport, on my way out to see the World Mobile team in Zanzibar, which will be their first rollout location this year, see what they've achieved in the last 2 years.
There's a lot of ambition in trying to turn Zanzibar into the hub. Sure. As it was before, 200+ years ago, it was the hub where everything came here and then was distributed onto the mainland. Or from the mainland, everything came to Zanzibar and then it went out to the world. This is now strategically positioned to be able to capture that particular market that is coming.
So all the equipment you're bringing in, is it coming in through this port?
A lot of the network equipment will just come in and we'll be deploying it starting in Stone Town.
And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. You know?
So you'll literally just put these repeaters, right, and cover this quite densely residential area, and anyone that's within this region will just be able to have a Wi-Fi network, well mobile, where you get faster data at cheaper prices.
Yes. The objective is very simple. So other than putting on the massive MNO type towers, it'll be something as simple as that. A pole with one device that picks up the signal, a cable will run into the Wi-Fi repeaters, and the Wi-Fi repeaters will throw out the mesh signal. The fiber lines are there. The technology exists. It's just we need the people to have access to it. And we as World Mobile are going to give these people the access.
Another really important part of this is you can see all of this existing infrastructure. You can see guys invested in solar, guys invested in their own ISP equipment. These are all people we can leverage for the shared economy. So we can use their infrastructure for our point-to-point, our TV white space, and they can actually benefit from that. So we are providing opportunities to them that they may not have even thought about before. Gone are the days where connectivity is with these big powerful MNOs. Now it's with the people.
We're going to a school where they've been deploying some infrastructure to provide connectivity for the school. So we're going to go and look at what they've delivered there. This school is, I think, the first pilot site for World Mobile in Zanzibar. We have an interview scheduled with Mickey, the CEO of World Mobile. We needed some internet. They've installed one of these solar-powered Wi-Fi drop-off points across the school, giving them internet access, which wasn't here before. So yeah, we're just going to use their internet to do a quick interview with Mickey, and then we'll be on our way. Mickey Watkins, how are you doing?
John O'Connor, I'm very good. How are you? Lovely to see you.
Fantastic to see you too. So do you recognise where we're at, where I'm shooting from?
I do. Looks like the school.
It is.
How's the internet?
The internet's pretty great. I mean, I think we're on about 15 megabits a second right now, which is More than I get at home anyway.
I'm happy for you.
Maybe in your own words, you can tell us a little bit more about your vision for World Mobile and why you're trying to do what you're trying to do.
My motivation is to deliver a business model that nobody has yet via a sharing economy that is the solution to connecting the unconnected.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your view of what the sharing economy means in regards to World Mobile.
The sharing economy to us is everything. We believe that the reason that half the world is unconnected is due to the fact that responsibility hasn't been shared.
So maybe we can dig in a little deeper into exactly how the technology works.
We're using free space optics, we're using blimps, balloons, helikites, we're using all types of technology in order to be able to pick up backhaul from the sea, from existing infrastructure, and deliver it to the people on the ground at half the price and double the speed.
But what attracted you guys to pick Input-Output as a partner and build on our technology?
Banking the unbanked. That's to put it into a short phrase. I saw what you and Charles were doing. I saw what IOHK stand for, and it was an obvious choice. There was nobody else in the space that had the same vision as you, and it matched ours. And to bank the unbanked, you need to connect the unconnected. Together, it's a perfectly symbiotic relationship.
So on the subject of banking the unbanked, I think one of the biggest opportunities we have in our partnership is to be able to start moving from what crypto has done in DeFi towards more what we're calling RealFi.
You just said it. This is not just DeFi. This is RealFi. By providing people with the connectivity, by providing them with identity, we're actually going to see the real intention behind blockchain. We're going to see people sitting the other side of the world being able to fund via staking pools, the ability to roll out whole countries and continents. We're going to see people being able to take loans on the other side of the world. This is it. This is the bridging. This is the digital divide. This is where we change everything together.
Mickey, it's been super great to catch up.
John, it's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to change the world with you. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
Take care, Mickey. Ciao. So we've got this model, right, of being able to expand into potentially rural areas which have been left out by traditional telcos. And we'd like to make sure that people are incentivized to expand this network. Explain how this would work to me when we're talking about giving lower cost internet access to those regions which have been underserved. And explain also how this fits in with the solar model which you guys have talked about.
Solar is just a way to create energy where there's no grid. You need a battery, you need a solar power, and you work backwards from there. So we know that our node is consuming very little power. I mean, 20, maybe 50 watts at the peak of usage. And so that you really don't need a lot of energy.
New light, WC power, one outside here, one actually in the store. See that? Like daytime. Almost every single major highway in Zanzibar has a fiber network deployed on it, so that's one. We can do point-to-point, which is like two devices talking off towers. Do free space optics, TV white space, you can do normal free band. These are all within the realms of regulation. But then you have this element of the villages or the places where there's no fiber. Point-to-point becomes next to impossible, but the nearest tower is probably like 50, 60 miles away. So you have VSAT. That VSAT is talking back to our hub. Technology that you deploy is just cheaper.
Morning, gents. How are you all doing?
Good morning, John. I'm good.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you. It's been a while.
John, very nice to see you again. I'm very excited and looking forward to being part of this Africa special.
All right, thanks, guys. So, Chris, maybe you can talk to us about some of the challenges which telcos have to face when operating within a government framework.
One of the many advantages of the World Mobile model is that it operates to some degree autonomously and independent of central government. And central government in some of the jurisdictions we're talking about has degrees of corruption in all or part of it. And therefore anything which is centrally driven and top down is susceptible to those kinds of issues. World Mobile, since it operates using frequencies which are not licensed centrally, and using demand which is generated at a local level is to some extent insulated from those kinds of pressures.
Charles, how do we bridge this divide to drive further inclusivity across our societies in Africa?
We need to have inclusivity in terms of communication, both for urban and rural areas.
What impact will that have in terms of economic development?
Much of our economy, much of our social lives, much of our economic lives now depends on digital connectivity. And for those people in Africa, they're missing out, and they're increasingly being subjected to a digital divide between those who have connectivity and those who don't.
What would be the specific key benefits from connecting these unconnected populations?
Definitely financial inclusion. I think access to various types of government services. With digital technology and the digitization of land records and other government things, you could access that from your phone sitting in your village. Then you could then go to a microfinance person to borrow money, to buy crops, all kinds of things like that.
Charles, can you add to that?
We must be able to bring cost-effective communication so that in the end it's not a question of commercial issues, it's a question of people being included and people being in one society to communicate and relate to each other.
How important is local internet infrastructure in driving that?
Some person sitting in office in Silicon Valley has no idea about the needs of somebody in a village in Kenya or Botswana. And so you need to have that local innovation to get all the real benefits of the digital economy.
So Chris, is there anything else you'd like to add?
What I really like about the World Mobile model is that it's bottom up, it's demand driven, it's demand led. So that where there are people who need and want the service, that is where World Mobile plans to be, which is a very different way of looking at it from the classic MNO model.
Charles, Andrew, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time. This was super interesting and very informative.
We're going now to meet the Minister of Education.
We're just hoping he's going to be interested in the same product that we did in Ethiopia. We're doing 5 million ICTs with the Ministry of Education there, so who knows?
Today, we want to probably visit his campus, see the labs, the facilities, focus on the ICT guys and see what capabilities they have and how we, one way or another, can participate in the enhancement of the education system. Yeah. There you go. Just come in.
I think something which would be very interesting as a partnership would be for the university to issue digital degree certificates on our blockchain.
Blockchain is a new thing to us. I mean, one day we'll see Zanzibar, they're talking about blockchain, you'll be the first one.
We really want to make sure that it's not just training, that there's like an actual practical component to it. So as these guys are providing the connectivity, we would like there to be a Zanzibarian contingent that can basically program applications for their product, right? Yeah. And this is where the idea of a lab comes in, right? You've got a sustainable model for it. So it's not a one-off course, it happens every 6 months or it happens every year. These things aren't easy to do, they're expensive, they take a lot of time.
Because we come with ideas, but we need to grow with that ideas. Then we can make communication with you to help us, how we can adopt that blockchain technologies to our curriculum also, through the universities.
I think it's better to discuss the modality, how we are going about. Definitely we need to have tight collaboration with us, maybe MOU or whatever.
It's definitely something that we'd be happy to discuss.
Actually, we are having that problem using blended learning in our teaching, but it's really hard because the internet cost is somehow high and some of the students cannot really afford to pay. For example, we are using mobile network operators bundles, but for us, of course, for most of the lecturers can afford, but for the students,
extra cost, right?
Yeah, extra. It happens sometimes that students are not able to do the online work,
online courses, lectures, videos, exercises.
Yeah, because of the connectivity.
This is the first problem.
Yeah, it's a very huge.
And it's the biggest opportunity as well.
Yeah.
We can really improve, make things nicer.
As a lawyer and as a representative of the people, I think it's important that everybody has access to information, and connectivity fits in perfectly with that. I'm a bridge between the government and the people, so whatever decisions have been made by the government, queries, then I take them to the other side, and then whatever it is. I represent women and children. A lot of times you have women that have either issues or things that they're already doing, productions that they're already doing, but nobody knows about these things.
Connectivity allows other women to inspire the women to get connected, learn what other women are doing, and also getting to know what they can also learn based on what other women are doing.
When I was starting my business, I learned everything that I learned online. I reached out to other people that were making similar products. That's how I found out my information and how I got to make chocolate as I do today. So connectivity to me is priceless.
Having access to loan and these others will be a lot easier on your device where you are. You don't have to actually move from one area to the next.
And that's the perfect synergy between bringing the connectivity to a school and helping them create this lab that we're talking about.
Yes.
So imagine now they don't have to go all the way to Dar es Salaam from, Kigoma or something.
Yes.
They can go to the local school, and that lab should have all the tools to allow them to do things like get meter, pay tax, apply for any government license that anybody needs to do some work.
Yes.
As any other person, to have information is power, to be connected to other people, to be connected to the world, not just where you are or people you know. It's priceless.
From the perspective of the consumer, they're always going to get a price which matches the best that any of the MNOs will be able to offer. But as you guys roll out this infrastructure, it will just get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. What we mean when we say we're trying to disrupt finance, it's really over three key areas, right? The first is identity. The second is going to be transfer of value or payments, right? And then the last area is going to be the programmability of that, of contracts.
When it comes to identity, the typical Zanzibari would have two IDs, right? But then you still have the problem of the identity. And it comes in a more recent finding from the state, where there's always an issue of ghost workers. Ghost workers are when civil service is paying salaries to people that don't exist. And this happens month in, month out, year in, year out. It's an ever-going problem. I think it's not just a Zanzibari problem or a Tanzanian problem. It's more or less a problem in a lot of African countries. So having a digital identity would solve that particular problem once and for all. Anything that will solve that challenge will create a lot of change in the environment.
So I know that some of the things that we've talked about is that, privacy is a big concern for you guys, and it's one of the reasons why the project started. So within this example, each subscriber will have an identity which they can choose to share or choose not to share. So as they build up a credit history from taking small loans with you guys, they have the ability to essentially export this credit history and use it in an authenticated and validated fashion with any one of a number of different credit providers.
This journey's come a long way, and I think the power and the vision is that this is a problem worth solving together.
The internet is, I think, one of the most addictive things that mankind has ever created for themselves. The more you have access to it, the more you will use it, the more you would use it for what works for you. It's every human's right to have access to connectivity that allows them to be whatever it is that they need to be.
I get literally hundreds of these like cold emails on LinkedIn or whatever. But when I saw, you know, quite like a nascent idea from you guys about a scalable economic model to be able to deliver internet and connectivity cheaper than any of the current MNOs and Airtels and MTNs, that's exciting, right? All of you guys have such in-depth experience and knowledge about the industry. You know, you with your batteries supplying the telco towers here, you guys with minutes across the world, you know, you RJ with actual experience of having a license in Tanzania and doing this kind of stuff before. You guys have come up with something innovative, and that spoke to me.
How this whole thing works, again, it's a combination of the three different elements. The element of the blockchain, the element of the power, and the element of the connectivity. Each one of those segments independently can match anything that we can be put against in the world.
One of the things which really attracted me to your project was that you'd understood a truth about the telecoms industry and were trying to solve this one particular problem. And I could see how blockchain would enable that to maybe go to the next level.
The only thing I would say, it's more fundamental. It's not like we fixed a problem in telecom. We found a problem in humanity, in civilization, where half of the world has been left offline and they don't have any opportunity to speak to the other half of the world. We've taken off-the-shelf products that are ready available. The big companies like Microsoft, Facebook, Google and others have invested billions of dollars in developing equipment that really works, that can be deployed at a fraction of the cost that MNOs are using their business models to connect people with. And we're taking the last mile connectivity to the people that really need it and unlocking them and allowing them to connect up to the rest of the world.
I think you basically wrapped up the whole 2 days and everything.
Yeah.
This is a reboot of the system. This is not a revolution. Connecting the unconnected is the first step. Second step is banking the unbanked. This is much bigger than the existing $3 trillion industry.
What you have to understand is the business is not internet connectivity, nor is it the access. The business is what you do once everybody's got this access.
So in order to bank the unbanked, of which there's 3 billion people, first you need to connect the unconnected, and then you need to give them digital ID. Once you've given them digital ID, then you can begin to offer them financial services.
This is where the innovation will come in.
Then you'll see explosive growth on the African continent and beyond.
Once you sow the seed, it will grow exponentially itself.
We did this because we can. We did this because we have to. We did this because half the world has been left offline.
We know what works. We know how to do it.
The winner will be the people on the ground. And that's why the sharing economy is the incentive that we need to connect the unconnected.
It's your choice to do what you want to do with it.
This is the biggest business opportunity, whilst also solving one of the biggest problems in history.